Serial killers have shocked the world with their chilling crimes. In this video, we'll dive into the lives of 10 of the most notorious killers in history.
I don't think so. No, 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 no. I don't think so.
Bundy is on trial here in Miami for the brutal murders of 2 Florida State University co-eds. He is a suspect in at least 19 other murders.
Number 1. Ted Bundy. His crimes were committed between 1974 to 1978. Ted Bundy, an American serial killer, confessed to 30 murders across multiple states. He was known for his charm and manipulative behavior. Bundy was arrested in 1975 and executed in Florida's electric chair on January 24, 1989, after a decade of appeals.
On January the 9th, 1991, Eileen Carol Warnos was arrested in Daytona Beach, Florida. She worked as a hitchhiking hooker.
Number 2. Aileen Wuornos. Crimes committed between 1989 to 1990. Aileen Wuornos, a prostitute, killed 7 men in Florida, claiming self-defense against attempted sexual assaults. Convicted of 6 murders, she was sentenced to death and executed by lethal injection on October 9, 2002, after years of media attention.
For this small Wisconsin community of under 700 persons, 10 years of trying to forget have been wiped away in a single day. The return of the name of Ed Gein means return of memories.
Number 3. Ed Gein. His crimes were committed between 1954 to 1957. Ed Gein, whose crimes inspired films like Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, exhumed bodies and used their skin to make clothing and household items. Arrested in 1957, Gein was found insane and died in a mental institution in 1984.
He was very forthcoming. He volunteered details that may be difficult to hear. I began by asking what he wanted from the men he picked up.
Number 4. Jeffrey Dahmer. His crimes were committed between 1978 to 1991. Known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, Dahmer murdered 17 men and boys, dismembering and sometimes cannibalizing his victims. Dahmer was arrested in 1991, sentenced to life, and tragically murdered by a fellow inmate at Columbia Correctional Institution in 1994.
County State's Attorney's Office tonight denying reports that there is an investigation underway to find an accomplice to the murders of those 27 people, their bodies found at the home of John Gacy.
Number 5. John Wayne Gacy, 1972 to 1978. Known as the Killer Clown, John Wayne Gacy murdered at least 33 young men and boys. He hid their bodies beneath his home. After his arrest in 1978, Gacy was convicted and executed by lethal injection on May 10, 1994, in Illinois.
Embodiment of every parent's worst nightmare. Sadomasochist, child murderer, and cannibal. He was Albert Fish.
Number 6. Albert Fish committed his crimes between 1924 to 1934. Known as the Gray Man, Albert Fish murdered, cannibalized, and tortured children. He confessed to the murders of 5 children, but claimed to have victimized others. Arrested in 1934, Fish was convicted and executed by electric chair on January 16, 1936.
Randy Kraft was a man of many guises: military veteran, computer whiz, party animal, and prolific serial killer.
Number 7. Randy Kraft. Crimes committed between 1972 to 1983. Randy Kraft, also known as the Scorecard Killer, murdered at least 16 young men and boys, many of whom were found alongside his detailed scorecard. He was arrested in 1983 and convicted of 16 murders, receiving the death penalty.
The murders of 17 women, prostitutes and topless dancers, the biggest mass murder case in Alaska's history.
Number 8. Robert Hansen. His crimes were committed between 1971 to 1983. A former Alaskan hunting guide, Hansen abducted, tortured, and killed at least 17 women. His victims were often released in the wilderness, where he hunted and then killed them. He was arrested in 1983 and sentenced to 461 years in prison. He died in 2014.
David Berkowitz, the son of Sam.
David Berkowitz,
the son of Sam.
At the age of 23, David Richard Berkowitz spent a year terrorizing New York City. From July 1976 through July 1977, he killed 6 people and wounded 7 others. He gained worldwide notoriety by not only eluding police, but mocking them.
Number 9. David Berkowitz committed his crimes between 1976 to 1977. David Berkowitz, also known as the son of Sam, murdered 6 people and wounded 7 others in New York City. He terrorized the city with his cryptic letters. After his 1977 arrest, Berkowitz was convicted and sentenced to 25 to life sentences, where he remains in prison.
Richard Kuklinski is not a serial killer. He's not a drug-crazed, wild man running around with a machine gun. Richard Kuklinski, instead, is nothing more than a predator on human beings.
Number 10. Richard Kuklinski, crimes he committed between 80s to 2000s. Known as the Iceman, Richard Kuklinski was a notorious contract killer, responsible for over 100 murders. Operating from the 1970s to the early 2000s, Kuklinski was a master manipulator. He was arrested in 1986, convicted, and died of heart failure in 2006. These killers left a lasting impact on history, sparking fear and fascination. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment for more chilling stories.